Hey guys, Soliman here, and welcome back to The Analyst. Today's the day we crack open the vault of information storage. We're diving into the world of databases and unleashing the power of MySQL. Ever get overwhelmed by spreadsheets that stretch on forever? Or wished you could organize your data in a way that makes sense and sings? That's where databases come in, the unsung heroes of the digital age. Think of them as magical filing cabinets that keep your info organized, accessible, and ready to use anytime. What you'll learn today: what's RDBMS? Why MySQL Workbench? How to install MySQL Workbench? How to create database? But before we get lost in data land, let's break it down. RDBMS. What's all that jargon? Imagine an organized party where everyone knows their place. That's an RDBMS, a relational database management system like MySQL. It stores your data in neat little tables, connected by relationships, so you can search, sort, and analyze it like a pro. Why MySQL Workbench? Your database. BFF MySQL Workbench is like your personal database guru. It's a free, user-friendly tool that lets you connect, manage, and create databases with ease. Think of it as your visual command center for all things data. Let's get this party started. Installing MySQL Workbench. Now MySQL just popped up for us, and this is exactly what you should be seeing. Now there's a lot of things in MySQL to learn and know how to do. We're not going to be taking a look at all of that stuff today, but in future lessons, we'll walk through a lot of these different things that kind of correlate with different lessons or things that we're working on in MySQL. The first thing that we're going to click on is right over here. This is our local instance. This is local to just our machine. It's not a connection to, some other database on the cloud or anything like that. It's just our local instance. We're going to go ahead and click on this. So this is what you should be seeing right here. This is where we're going to actually write all of our SQL code, and I'll show you all this in just a second. But this is where we can actually create our database, and our database is going to go right over here on this left-hand side. The Silicon one is actually a sample database. It has a bunch of tables and views, store procedures, functions. It has all of these things in here if you want to go ahead and mess around with that. What we're about to do is create our own database that we're going to be using throughout this entire series, both beginner, intermediate, and advanced. We use a lot of this. And sometimes we'll import some other ones for different use cases, but this will serve for most of what we're trying to do throughout this entire series. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, open a SQL script file in a new query tab. And right here, it opened up to a folder that I already created, this MySQL Beginner Series folder. Within it, we have this right here, the parts and rec create_db. Now, in order to get this, you have to go to the GitHub and download this file. That's all you have to do. We're then going to open this file. So let's click on it. We're going to say open. And what you're now saying is this is the query editor. This is where you can write your code. Now, we're not importing a database. We're actually creating it by running code. Now, because this is the first lesson in the beginner series, I'm going to assume you don't know a ton about MySQL. Really, all this is doing is creating the database name, and then we're inserting a few tables into that database, and then we're inserting data into those tables. So this is all of our data that will go into these tables that we create. We only have 1, 2, 3 different tables that we're going to be using. So all you have to do to run this is click this lightning button right up here. We're going to go ahead and execute this. If we come down to the bottom and we pull this up, this is our output. This says 6 rows affected. And we have a bunch of other things like create table, insert, create table, insert into. These things are all working perfectly. So now if we go ahead and click refresh in our schemas with this refresh button right here, this Parks and Recreation table is populated. If we go under the tables, we see all of these things. So now we've actually created our database and our tables. That's really all we were trying to do in this lesson, but I just want to open up a table really quickly, show you what it looks like, show you how we can run code, and then in the next lesson, we'll start actually learning how to query this data. So let's go up to Employee Demographics. We're going to right-click and select Rows Limit 1000. This is going to open up a new window right up here, and it's going to say select everything from this database dot this table, Employee Demographics, and it ends with a semicolon. Now right down here, we have this output window. This is the actual data that sits in our table. We have columns right here. So employee ID, first name, last name, age, gender, and birth date. And then here are all of our employees on each row. So these are all separate rows. So we have Leslie Nope, Tom Haverford, and it goes on and on. So this is all of our data. The most important things to know when we're actually working with this, I'm going to zoom in, is if we hover over this query right here and we run it, we can select this execute, which is this lightning bolt with this I. We're going to execute this, and it's going to run this because we're highlighted over it. Now, if we have 2 queries, let's say this one right here, well, let's change it to employee underscore salary. We'll do underscore salary. Let's say we want to query this table. So now if we highlight over this and we go up and select the lightning bolt with the I, now we're looking at a different table. But if we select, even if we're hovering over this, if we selected this button, we're going to execute everything in this outer window. So let's run this. And now you can see at the bottom, we have 2 outputs, the employee demographics and the employee salary. So this button is going to run everything in this editor window, whereas if we select this lightning bolt with the I, we're doing everything that's just under where we have the cursor, where we have it highlighted. The very last thing that I want to mention is that right over here, you may have this up, and you probably don't want that. We're not going to do any SQL additions in this series. You can get rid of that by clicking this button right here. Remember, data organization is no longer a mystery. With MySQL Workbench and this tutorial, you're well on your way to becoming a data master. So hit that subscribe button, grab your coffee or your favorite data fuel, and let's dive into the world of databases together. Challenge time. In the comments below, tell me, what's one benefit of using an RDBMS like MySQL instead of a regular spreadsheet? The most creative and accurate answer wins a big shout out on the next episode. Let's get this data conversation flowing. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the world of SQL. Remember, the power of information is in your hands. Go.